The night was heavy with smoke and the smell of old iron. In the crowded market, voices rose and fell like the sound of a broken sea. Traders shouted prices, cages rattled, and strange lights flickered in the mist. This was not a place for the weak. It was a place where lives were sold for coins. A lonely human man walked through the narrow street. His coat was old, his steps slow, but his eyes were steady. Many laughed when they saw him. He was the only human in the market, and to them, humans were strange, outsiders who did not belong here. Yet he walked with quiet courage, as if he had nothing left to lose. At the center of the square, an auction was taking place. Cages lined the stage, filled with alien girls and boys. Some cried, some stared at the ground. The crowd shouted prices, waving their hands for the strongest, the prettiest, the ones who could work or be used. Then the auctioneer dragged out something different. It was a girl with a sack tied over her head. Her small body looked weak. Chains hung from her wrists and her steps stumbled as she was pushed forward. The crowd jeered. "Worthless," one alien shouted. "Not even worth a coin." Another laughed. The auctioneer shrugged. "This one has no name, no skills, no beauty. But rules say we sell them all. Starting price. 3 credits. The crowd roared with laughter. 3 credits was nothing, less than the cost of a meal. The girl stood silent. She did not cry. She did not beg. She only lowered her head as if waiting for the world to end. Nobody raised a hand. Nobody wanted her. To them, she was trash. And then a single voice spoke, calm, clear, human. "I'll pay the 3. The crowd turned, shocked. The lonely human stepped forward, pulling 3 small coins from his pocket. His hand did not shake. He placed the coins on the table. The auctioneer blinked. "Are you serious? This one? She is nothing." "She is something," the human said simply. The crowd exploded with laughter again. Some shouted insults. Others mocked him, calling him a fool. But he did not listen. He only walked to the stage, where the girl stood with the sack on her head. The guard unlocked her chains, still laughing. "Take her, human. She is your burden now." The man reached out his hand. Slowly, gently, he touched her arm. She flinched, but did not pull away. Together, they walked off the stage. The laughter of the crowd followed them into the night like knives cutting into the silence. As they left the market, the man glanced at her. She still wore the sack, hiding her face. Her steps were weak, but her silence was strong. "Do you have a name?" he asked softly. No answer. He sighed but did not press her. Instead, he guided her through the empty streets, past broken stalls and dark corners. The night wind was cold, and her thin clothes offered no warmth. Without thinking, he placed his old coat over her shoulders. She froze for a moment, then slowly pulled it tighter around herself. For the first time, her body stopped trembling. The man said nothing more. He only walked, guiding her toward his small home at the edge of the city. But as they disappeared into the darkness, unseen eyes watched from the shadows. A whisper moved through the market. The human bought her, but does he know who she really is? The night held its breath. The story had just begun. The small house stood at the far edge of the city, away from the lights and the noise. It was not much, just old walls, a wooden door, and a roof patched many times. But for the human, it was home. And now, he was bringing someone else inside. The girl with the sack over her head followed him in silence. Her steps were slow, careful, as if every sound of the floor scared her. She clutched the old coat he had given her and kept her head bowed low. The man lit a single lamp. The warm glow filled the room, pushing away the cold darkness. He set a chair near the table. "Sit," he said gently. She obeyed, sitting down without a word. The sack still covered her head, tied tightly with a rough cord around her neck. The man frowned. He hated seeing it. She was not an object, not a thing to be hidden. Slowly, he walked closer and placed his hand on the cord. "May I?" he asked. His voice was calm, soft. The girl tensed. For a moment, her breathing quickened, but then she gave the smallest nod. Carefully, he untied the cord and lifted the sack away. What he saw made him pause. Her face was not like the others he had seen in the market. Her skin carried pale blue markings glowing faintly in the light. Across her cheek was a scar, sharp and deep, as if someone had struck her long ago. Her hair fell unevenly, cut without care, yet it shimmered like silver threads. And then her eyes, two bright, strange eyes that seemed to hold both pain and fire, looked back at him. She turned her face away quickly, ashamed. "Ugly," she whispered, her voice thin and broken. "Everyone says I am ugly." The man shook his head. "No, you are not ugly. You are different, and different is not the same as ugly." Her eyes widened. She stared at him as if she had never heard such words before. He stepped back, giving her space. "You must be hungry," he said, moving to a small shelf. He brought bread, a little fruit, and a pot of water. Placing them on the table, he sat across from her. "Eat." For a long time, she only looked at the food. Her fingers trembled. Then, slowly, she took a piece of bread. She bit into it, and her eyes filled with tears. It was simple food, nothing special. But to her, it was more than a meal. It was kindness. The man did not speak as she ate. He only watched quietly, making sure she felt safe. When she finished, she lowered her head again. "Why?" she asked in a whisper. "Why what? Why did you buy me? I am nothing. Worthless." The man leaned forward, his voice steady. "No one is worthless, not you, not anyone." Her lips parted as if she wanted to say more. But then she stopped, shaking her head. She pulled the coat tighter around her thin body. Night grew deeper outside. The wind howled softly against the walls. The man prepared a small bed in the corner. "You can rest here," he said. "You are safe now." The girl looked at the bed, then at him. Her eyes shone with something she could not name, fear, hope, or maybe both. Slowly she lay down, her silver hair spilling across the pillow. He dimmed the lamp and sat by the door, keeping watch. The market's laughter still echoed in his memory, but he ignored it. In the silence, he heard her whisper one word, so soft, he almost missed it. His name. He froze. How did she know it? He had never told her. The night air grew colder, heavy with mystery. Somewhere in the distance, the market boss was already speaking to his men. The human bought her. Fool. He does not know the secret he carries. Follow them. Watch them. Soon, we will take her back. And inside the small house, the girl closed her glowing eyes, her body shaking with hidden memories. She was safe for now, but the past was not finished with her. The house was quiet, but the silence did not bring peace. The human man sat by the door, watching the lamp burn low. The girl lay on the small bed, her silver hair spread across the pillow. For a while she seemed calm, her breathing soft. Then it began. Her body shook. A soft cry escaped her lips. Her hands clenched the blanket tightly. The man leaned forward, unsure. At first he thought she was cold, but then he saw the pain on her face. "No, no, please," she whispered in her sleep. Her voice was filled with fear. Tears rolled down from her closed eyes. Her body twisted as if she was fighting against invisible chains. The man moved closer. "It's only a dream," he said softly. He placed his hand lightly on her shoulder. Her eyes shot open. They glowed bright in the darkness like fire. She gasped and pulled away from him. For a moment, she looked at him as if he was another enemy. Then she realized where she was. Her breathing slowed, but her eyes still shone with fear. "You're safe," the man said calmly. "It was only a dream." She hugged herself, rocking slightly. "Not dream. Memory." He frowned. "Memory?" She nodded. Her voice was broken, but her words carried truth. "They hurt me. Chains, whips. I was nothing to them. Every night I see it again." The man felt anger rise inside him. He did not ask for details, but the scars on her cheek and the fear in her voice told enough. She had been treated worse than an animal. "I will not let anyone hurt you again," he said firmly. Her glowing eyes searched his face. "Why?" "Because it is right," he answered. Silence filled the room. Then slowly she lowered her head. "You don't understand. I am not just a slave. They wanted me for another reason. My blood. My family." She stopped, her lips trembling. The man waited. He knew pressing her would only close her heart again. Finally, she whispered, "Once, I lived in a house of light. I had brothers, sisters. We were many. But someone betrayed us. Soldiers came. Fire. Screaming. I was taken." Her hands shook as she spoke. "I was the only one left alive." Her words fell heavy in the air. The man realized she was not only a girl sold in the market. She was part of something greater, something dangerous. He placed a hand on the table, steadying himself. "Who betrayed you?" Her eyes darkened. "I don't know. But they will never. Stop searching. I am not safe anywhere, even here." The man straightened. "Then let them come. They will not take you again." She stared at him, confused. "You would fight for me, even if it kills you?" "Yes," he said simply. Her eyes filled with tears. She had never heard such words before. No one had ever chosen her. Not until now. The lamp flickered, and shadows danced across the walls. Outside, footsteps echoed in the distance. Unseen eyes moved through the streets. Men sent by the market. Boss were already searching. Inside, the girl closed her eyes, still shaking. But for the first time, she did not feel alone. The human sat near her bed through the night, silent and watchful. He knew danger was coming. He did not know when, but he could feel it in the cold air. And as the girl drifted into uneasy sleep once more, one thought filled her mind. This human was different. He was not her master. He was her shield. But in the darkness beyond the walls, whispers carried through the city. "Find the girl. Bring her back, alive." The night held its secrets, and both knew it was only the beginning. The next morning came slowly. Pale light crept through the cracks in the old roof. The human man was still awake, sitting by the door with heavy eyes. The girl stirred in the corner, waking from another restless sleep. Her glowing eyes opened, soft but still filled with shadows. She sat up, pulling his coat tightly around her. For a moment she only looked at him silent. Then, in a small voice, she said, "You stayed all night?" "Yes," he replied simply. "Why?" He shrugged. "Someone had to make sure you were safe." Her lips parted, but no words came. She was not used to such kindness. She lowered her eyes, her fingers curling around the fabric of the coat. It was old, torn in places, but to her it felt like armor. He stood and began to prepare food. It was not much: bread, water, and a piece of dried meat. He placed it before her. She ate slowly this time, no longer like a starving creature, but with quiet care. He noticed how her hands still trembled. "You don't have to be afraid here," he said softly. Her voice shook. "Fear is always with me." He wanted to tell her that it would pass, that time could heal. But looking at the scars on her face and the pain in her eyes, he knew time alone was not enough. She needed trust, and so he gave it. Over the next Days they began to share small words. She learned how to light the lamp, how to wash the dishes, how to fold the blanket. Simple things, but they gave her a sense of life, not slavery. Sometimes he caught her smiling faintly, as if she was learning how to live again, but shadows still followed them. One evening, as they walked through the market to buy supplies, whispers rose behind their backs. "That's the human who bought. The useless girl," someone sneered. "What a fool." Others laughed, pointing at her. She lowered her head, her silver hair covering her scar. The man stopped. His eyes grew hard. "Enough," he said to the crowd. The laughter died. There was something in his voice that carried weight, something that made even the boldest hesitate. Holding her hand, he led her away. Later that night, she looked at him with surprise. "Why did you speak for me? You should have ignored them." "Because they were wrong," he said. "You are not useless." Her glowing eyes filled with tears. She turned away, but her heart felt lighter, yet not all eyes turned away. In the shadows of the alley, one of the market boss's men watched. He smiled darkly. "The human thinks he can keep her. Soon, he will learn his mistake." Back at the small house, the girl sat by the fire. She finally asked the question that had been burning in her heart. "Do you regret buying me?" The man shook his head. "No. Never. Even if it brings danger?" He looked at her directly. "Then I will face it." For a long moment she said nothing. Then she whispered, "No one has ever said that to me before." The bond between them grew stronger that night. She was still afraid, still haunted, but now she felt something new, hope. But outside, danger moved closer. The market boss had already given the order. "Bring me the girl. Kill the human if you must." The girl did not know it yet, but the safe world she was slowly building was about to be tested. The fire crackled. The human closed his tired eyes, and the girl, sitting beside him, finally allowed herself a small smile. For the first time, she began to believe she might not be alone anymore. The night was colder than usual. Wind pressed against the small house, carrying strange whispers from the empty streets. The human man sat by the fire, half asleep, while the girl rested on the bed. For days, life had been quiet, almost peaceful. But peace never lasted long, in a world filled with greed. Far away, dark figures moved through the alleys. The market boss had sent his men. Their boots made no sound. Their blades glinted faintly under the moonlight. They followed orders. Take the girl, kill the human if needed. Inside the house, the girl stirred in her sleep. Her body tensed, her hands clenched the blanket. A shadow passed by the window. She opened her glowing eyes at once. "Someone is outside," she whispered. The man rose instantly. His hand reached for the old metal rod he kept near the door. It was not much of a weapon, but it was all he had. Then the door shook. Once, twice. With a loud crash, it broke open. 3 men rushed. Inside, their faces hidden by dark cloth. The first swung a blade at the human. He blocked it with the rod, sparks flying in the dim light. The second tried to grab the girl, but she screamed and pulled back. Her voice filled the small room, sharp and full of fear. The man fought with everything he had. He was not trained, not strong like soldiers, but his will was unshaken. He struck one attacker in the shoulder, forcing him back. Another slashed his arm, drawing blood, but he did not fall. "Run!" he shouted to the girl. She did not move. Her glowing eyes were wide with terror, but when she saw blood dripping from his arm, something inside her broke. She would not leave him. Not again. The attackers pressed harder. One hit the man in the chest, knocking him against the wall. Pain shot through him, but he lifted the rod. Again. His breath came heavy, but his eyes burned with determination. "You will not take her," he growled. The intruders laughed cruelly. "She belongs to the market. You are nothing human." But then, the room changed. The girl's fear turned into fire. Her eyes glowed brighter, filling the small house with pale blue light. She raised Her hands and the air itself seemed to shiver. A force, invisible but powerful, surged through the room. The attackers stumbled, shocked. "What is this?" The girl's voice shook, but it carried power. "I am not your slave." With a wave of energy, she pushed them back. Two men crashed against the wall, their blades falling from their hands. The third tried to rise, but the human struck him down with the rod. Silence returned, broken only by the sound of the girl's heavy breathing. She stared at her hands, frightened of her own power. The man dropped the rod and staggered toward her. His arm bled, his chest ached, but he managed a small smile. "You saved us." Her eyes filled with tears. "No, I showed them who I am. Now more will come." He touched her shoulder gently. "Then we will face them together." The girl looked at him, her heart racing. In that moment, she realized something. He was willing to fight for her life, even against impossible odds. No one had ever done that before. Outside, the attackers crawled away, broken and terrified. They would report everything to the market. "Boss." And the boss would not be pleased. The night grew quiet again, but it was the silence before a storm. The girl and the human knew it. This was only the beginning. The small house smelled of smoke and blood. The broken door leaned against the wall, and the floor carried dark stains from the night's fight. The human man sat quietly, his arm wrapped with a piece of cloth to stop the bleeding. His body ached, but his eyes stayed sharp. The girl sat, across from him, her glowing eyes fixed on the floor. She had not spoken since the attackers fled. Her hands still trembled. She looked at her palms again and again as if they belonged to someone else. Finally, she whispered, "You saw it." The man nodded slowly. "I saw." Her voice cracked. "Do you fear me now?" He shook his head. "No." Tears gathered in her strange eyes. "You should. I am not what you think. I am not just a slave. I am something dangerous." He leaned forward. "Then tell me. Let me understand." She drew in a shaky breath. Her voice was low, heavy with memories. "I was born in a house of light, far from here. My family was not poor. We were leaders of our people. My blood carries power. That is why my eyes shine. That is why they hunt me." The man stayed silent, letting her speak. "They betrayed us," she continued. "One night, soldiers came. They killed my brothers. They burned the halls. My parents died protecting me. I was taken, sold in chains, hidden under a sack. They did not want the world to know who I was, but they also did not want me dead. They wanted control of my bloodline." Her hands clenched. "I am the last. If they find me, they will use me. If I stay here, they will come again. You will die because of me." The man listened, his jaw tight. He knew her words were true. The attack had proven it. She was not safe anywhere, but neither was he if he kept her close. She looked at him, her eyes wet. "You should let me go. I will run far, far away. If they kill me, you will live." He shook his head. "No." "Why?" she asked desperately. "Why do you choose this? You owe me nothing. I bring only death." The man's voice was firm. "Because you are not alone anymore. I found you in that cage, and I chose you. If danger follows, then I will face it. That is my choice." Her lips trembled. "Even if it kills you?" "Yes," he said simply. The girl pressed her hands to her chest. No one had ever spoken to her like this. To others, she was a burden, a curse, a price too heavy. But to him, she was worth the fight. Her tears fell freely now, glowing faintly in the lamplight. "Then let me ask you something," she whispered. "If I stay, what am I to you, a secret, a guest, or something more?" The man's heart pounded. He did not answer quickly. Instead, he stood, walked to the broken doorway, and looked out at the dark streets. His voice was calm, but heavy with meaning. "You are not a secret. You are not a guest. You are someone I will protect with my life. Whatever that makes me to you, I will accept it." The girl covered her face, shaking with emotion. For the first time, the fire of hope burned stronger than her fear. But outside, in the heart of the city, the market boss slammed his fist on the table. His men bowed before him. "She is more than a slave," he growled. "She is a treasure. The human thinks he can keep her? No, prepare the others. We will take her back by force." The night carried a heavy silence. Inside the house, a fragile bond was turning into something unbreakable. But outside, the storm was gathering, and soon both would be tested. The broken door had been fixed with old wood and nails, but the small house still carried the scars of the attack. Every sound outside made the human man alert, and every shadow made the girl's heart beat faster. Yet in the middle of fear, something else had begun to grow. Trust. Days passed. The girl learned how to help in small ways, cooking, cleaning, mending his torn coat. The human worked harder than before, gathering food and keeping watch. He never complained, even when his wounds still hurt. Whenever she looked at him, she felt a strange warmth inside her chest. One evening, as the sun set in red and gold, the two sat together near the fire. Silence wrapped around them, but it was not empty. It was full of things unspoken. The girl's eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. She whispered, "You still don't understand what keeping me means. More men will come. Armies may come." The man looked at her calmly. "Let them." Her voice broke. "Why do you keep saying that? Why risk everything for me?" He leaned closer, his face serious. "Because from the moment I saw you, I knew you were not worthless. They saw nothing. I saw someone who needed a hand to hold." Her hands shook. She pulled the coat tighter around her. "You speak like I am more than just a burden." "You are," he said softly. Tears filled her eyes. For so long she had been told she was nothing. But this man's words cut through her doubt like light in the dark. She looked at him with fear and hope. "Then what am I to you?" The man hesitated, his heart heavy with words he had never spoken. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a simple string with a small metal ring, old, worn, but precious. He placed it on the table between them. "You are not just someone I protect," he said slowly. "You are someone I want by my side. Not as a secret, not as a guest, but as family. Will you be my wife?" The girl gasped. Her glowing eyes widened in shock. She covered her mouth with her hands, trembling. You would marry me? A broken slave? A hunted alien?" He nodded. "Not broken. Not worthless. You are strong. You are kind. And I want no one else." Her tears fell freely now, but her lips curved into a trembling smile. She picked up the ring with shaking fingers. I will. I will be your wife." The man's chest filled with warmth. For the first time in years, he felt alive again. He reached out and she placed her hand in his. At that moment, the fire seemed brighter. The girl leaned forward, her forehead touching his. Her voice was soft but steady. "If we live or die, I will stay with you." But outside, in the dark city, the market boss was not celebrating. His spies had brought the news. The girl was no longer just in hiding. She was now the wife of a human. The boss's eyes burned with rage. "They think marriage will protect her? Fools! Gather every man we have. Burn the house if you must. She is ours." Inside, the girl rested her head on the man's shoulder, her heart finally at peace. She had been bought for 3 coins, mocked by the world, but now she had found something worth more than gold. A family. Neither of them knew the storm that was coming, but both knew one thing. Whatever happened, they would face it together. The small house on the edge of the city changed after that night. It was no longer just a shelter for one lonely man. It had become a home. The girl, now his wife, moved through the rooms with new purpose. She cleaned, cooked, and mended, but more than that, she smiled. Her glowing eyes no longer looked only at the floor. Sometimes, when she laughed, the house felt alive. The man worked hard each day. He traded small goods, fixed tools for neighbors, and brought home food. He was not rich, but he had enough to keep them warm and fed. And now when he returned, he was not alone. She waited for him, her face lighting up when he walked through the door. Weeks passed. One cold evening, they found a boy hiding near the broken wall outside. He was small, his body thin with hunger, his skin was marked with bruises. When asked, he whispered, "No family." The wife's heart broke. She begged the man to let the boy stay. And so, they gave him food, a blanket, and a place by the fire. Soon, the boy became part of their life. He called them Mother and Father, words that filled the house with warmth. Not long after, another child came, a little girl, abandoned in the street. Then another, lost and crying. Slowly, the house filled with the voices of children who had nowhere else to go. Some were human, some were alien, but it did not matter. The man and his wife opened their doors to them all. At night, the children gathered around the fire, listening to stories. The wife told tales of stars and forgotten kingdoms. The man spoke of courage and kindness. Laughter replaced silence. The lonely house had turned into a family. But outside, danger grew. In the market, the boss seethed with anger. His spies reported everything. The human had not only married the alien girl, but together they were raising a family. To the boss, this was not love. It was an insult. "She was mine," he growled, slamming his fist on the table. "That blood belongs to me. That power belongs to me. I will tear it from their hands." His men listened carefully. He ordered them to gather more fighters, to arm themselves with blades and fire. "We will not simply steal her back, we will crush them. Burn the house. Let the whole city see what happens to those who defy me." Back in the small house, the wife felt the weight of the future pressing on her. She knew enemies were coming. Her nightmares reminded her every night. But when she looked at her husband and the children, she felt strength she had never known. One evening, as the children slept, she sat beside her husband near the fire. "They will not forgive us," she said softly. "The boss will come with many men. We may not survive." The man placed his arm around her shoulders. "Then we will fight, not just for us, but for them." He nodded toward the sleeping children. "They are ours now. We will not let anyone take them." Her glowing eyes shone with tears. She leaned against him, her heart steady. "Then whatever happens, we face it together." Outside, the night grew darker. In the city's shadows, the boss's army sharpened their blades and prepared to march. The house that had become a family was about to become a battlefield. The smoke from the battle still hung in the air. Broken weapons lay scattered on the ground, and the soil was dark with blood. The small house, though burned at the edges, still stood. It had survived, just like the family inside. The human man sat near the door, his body tired and covered in wounds. His wife knelt beside him, wrapping his arm with cloth. Her glowing eyes were soft now, no longer burning with battle fire. She looked at him with both worry and relief. "You fought like a warrior," she whispered. He gave a faint smile. "I fought like a husband. That is enough." The children gathered around them. Some hugged the man, others clung to the wife. Fear still lingered in their small hearts, but the sight of their parents alive gave them comfort. The house echoed not with crying, but with soft voices full of love. For the first time, the girl, no, the wife, understood something clearly. She had been called worthless, ugly, cursed. She had been hidden under a sack, treated like dirt. But now she was more than all of that. She was a wife, a mother, and a protector. She touched her husband's hand. "They will come again one day, not just the boss, but others. My bloodline is still a danger." He looked into her glowing eyes, his voice firm. "Then let them come. We are not alone anymore. We have each other. We have a family." His words filled her heart with strength. She nodded, wiping away the tears that fell freely down her scarred cheek. Days turned into weeks. The family rebuilt their home. The burned walls were patched, the broken roof fixed. Neighbors came, offering help. Many had seen the light of the battle from far away, and whispers spread quickly. They say the human fought an army, someone said. They say the alien girl is no slave, but a queen in hiding, another whispered. They built a family out of nothing, a family stronger than fear. The market boss never returned. His men were broken, his power lost. Fear of the human and his glowing-eyed wife spread through the city. No one dared to touch them again. And so, life began anew. The children played outside the house, their laughter filling the empty streets. The wife told them stories of stars and hope. The man taught them how to work with tools, how to be strong and how to stand tall. At night, when the house was quiet, the wife often sat beside her husband by the fire. She would place her head on his shoulder, and he would hold her hand. No, words were needed. They had already said everything in the way they lived. One evening, the boy they had first rescued looked up at the man and asked, "Father, is it true? You bought Mother for only 3 coins?" The man smiled. "Yes, that is true." The boy laughed. "Then she was cheap." The wife pretended to frown, though her lips curved in a smile. She pulled the boy close. "No, I was the most expensive. He gave more than coins. He gave his heart." The children giggled, and the man nodded, his eyes shining with quiet pride. Word of their family spread beyond the city. Travelers spoke of them, telling tales of a human who bought an alien girl for almost nothing but gained everything. Some called him foolish, others called him brave. But to those who knew the truth, he was something more. He was a husband who chose love over fear. Years would pass, dangers would rise again, but their bond could not be broken. They had built something greater than power, greater than wealth. They had built a family, and in the heart of the galaxy, that was a story no one could ignore.